Okay, we're ready to go, guys. All right, we're going to start the press conference. So, first of all, I want to thank everyone for being here. We have a lot of folks from across the country, out of Washington, D.C., out of the Trump administration. And the reason we're here today is we're going to be talking about our plans to work together across different departments, different agencies involving drugs and drug interdiction. Obviously, it's a problem for our country. Obviously, it's a problem for the state of Alaska. The Attorney General will speak a little later if there's questions posed on our partnership with the Anchorage municipality, which we believe is really going well. We met with the mayor and her staff yesterday, and we believe that through all this integration with the feds, with the municipality, with the state of Alaska, we're going to be able to make a huge dent in drug interdiction and the sale of drugs here in Alaska. And we'll talk about how we're going to go about doing that. So, just a few prepared words. I ran for governor with a mission to improve public safety. That was job one. Over the past 7 years, I've kept my promises to do everything in my power to make Alaska safer. We've put record amounts of resources into Alaska State Troopers and village public safety officers. We're seeing the results of that investment with a declining crime rate. We're making progress, but there's still work to be done. Stopping illegal drugs from entering Alaska is a key part of keeping Alaskans safe. According to provisional data from the CDC from August 2024 to August 2025, overdose deaths in Alaska declined by nearly 19%. Our law enforcement officers have seized millions of doses of fentanyl over that same period of time. This is great news, but we aren't taking our foot off the gas pedal. One state agency can't end drug trafficking on its own. It takes teamwork. So I'm proud of the cooperation all of the agencies represented here today have displayed as they work to keep deadly drugs off the streets of Alaska and put dealers and traffickers behind bars. This isn't an effort that is isolated here in Alaska. President Trump and his administration are making it a priority to stop drugs from coming into our country, including Alaska. So I'm pleased to introduce Sara Carter, the director of the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, or simply America's Drug Czar. Sara, come on up.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Governor Dunleavy, and thank you for your partnership, and the men and women of the U.S. Postal Inspection Service for their tireless work in this operation. Thank you so much. This operation is proof, and I'll bring this down, that the Trump administration is proactively hunting down those who threaten Alaska, rather than waiting for those threats to arrive. During just 10 days of this surge, we seized enough fentanyl to have killed about 2.3 million people. Think about that. That is over 3 times the population of Alaska. This is exactly why President Trump issued the executive order designating fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. This isn't just drug trafficking. This is a chemical attack on our people, on our nation, and the state of Alaska. We also seized an additional 115 pounds of other illegal drugs, all in just the span of 10 days. Illicit drugs are especially dangerous in Alaska, where help can be hours away in a remote village. In the lower 48, the mail is a convenience. In Alaska, it is a lifeline. That makes the cartel's exploitation of the postal system here particularly heinous. They are using your connection to the outside world to smuggle poison into your homes. I am proud of the role played by ONDCP's Alaska High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Team in the success of this surge. Thank you so much. While we are proud of this victory, the war is not over. If we shut down one avenue for drug trafficking, smugglers will try to open another. We know they attempt to hide drugs in the U.S. mail. We know they exploit private express carriers and commercial air cargo. And we know they attempt to move these poisons through the Alaska Marine Highway system. But whether it is by mail, sea, air, or land, we will stop them. This will be achieved by empowering Alaska's state, local, and tribal law enforcement agencies through cooperation with federal law enforcement. State, local, and tribal law enforcement are the experts in their respective communities. They are the tip of the spear. They are on the front lines. By pairing their knowledge and expertise with resources and authorities of federal law enforcement partners, as well as their own knowledge and expertise, we can close the gaps in our defense and leave smugglers nowhere to operate. That principle is the foundation of the Homeland Security Task Force model. By discarding past, often soiled initiatives and siloed, Homeland Security task forces are instead deliberately and methodically braiding all federal efforts into a streamlined and unified whole, especially through the HSTF National Coordination Center, which combines federal intelligence and resources with the expertise and capacity of over 18,000 state, local, and tribal territorial law enforcement agencies throughout the United States. Our efforts, however, will not be limited to our own border. This administration has proven that we must stay on a relentless offense to prevent drugs from reaching our borders in the first place. And that is exactly what we have done, and that is exactly what we are doing. There will be no place for these cartels to operate when we are done with them. We will hunt them in the mail. We will hunt them at the border. And we will hunt them in the labs abroad where this poison is made. Your children, your state, your families are worth it. It is just that important. We don't want to see another child die. We will break the backs of these criminal empires, and we will keep Alaskans safe. And there is one promise that I can make to you and to the governor. None of you will be forgotten. Nobody in Alaska deserves to see this poison in their communities, and especially in remote tribal areas where people cannot reach help and cannot get safety in time. And we will keep all Alaskans safe. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Commissioner Cockrell, I'd like you to come on up here and talk. Thank you for everything that you do with Alaska DPS. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm James Cockrell. I'm the Commissioner of Alaska Department of, I almost said Fish and Game, Alaska Department of Public Safety. I want to thank the Governor for the invitation. And I want to thank everybody for being here, and I certainly want to welcome the folks that came to Alaska to come to this press conference. What you should know, the Alaska State Troopers are proud to work alongside our federal, state, and local partners as we continue our tireless efforts to keep illegal drugs out of our state. Illicit drugs upend lives, devastate families, and fuel violence in our state. Because of the high rate of return driven by high drug prices in rural Alaska specifically, our great state continues to target outside traffickers. We will not tolerate this, and we're laser focused on seizing drugs in Alaska. For the second year in a row, Alaska saw record-breaking drug seizures. In total, we seized 1,140 pounds of illegal drugs. This is second highest total in recent years and since the opioid epidemic began. More than 17 million potential fatal doses of fentanyl were also seized. In addition to fentanyl, meth, cocaine continue to pose the highest threats to our state and are among the most seized substance during this past year. We are, as a department, committed to holding offenders accountable. Our SDEU, our drug unit, made 175 unique drug and alcohol arrests across this great state. I am, and we are, so proud of the progress we've made during the last year to keep dangerous drugs out of Alaska. As a result of these efforts, we've seen a decline in overdose deaths. Drug interdiction is our top priority for the Alaska State Troopers and will continue to be. Understand that we will not stop seizing drugs in this state. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I got to introduce the U.S. Attorney of the United States of Alaska, Michael Heyman. Sorry about that, sir. I always get nervous when there's lawyers in the house.
I'll be nice. Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Governor, for the invitation. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Heyman. I'm the United States Attorney for the District of Alaska. My office prosecutes all federal crimes impacting the state and has also been an instrumental partner in the fight against these deadly narcotics. Combating drug trafficking is a national priority. And so are the plethora of other crimes that come along with drug trafficking. There's the violent crime, the firearms trafficking, money laundering, and Alaska is not immune from any of these problems. And because of these things, I have made combating drug trafficking a priority of my office as well. And we've seen some great successes already in 2025. These successes were achieved by the incredible partnerships from the federal, state, and local partners that you see here today. One of the tools that we have collectively used is something called Operation Take Back America, or OPTBA. OPTBA is a national initiative by the U.S. Department of Justice focused, among other things, on achieving the total elimination of cartels and transnational organizations, as well as protecting our communities from the perpetrators of violent crime and drug trafficking. OPTBA resources combine federal resources across all agencies and penetrate historic barriers that would have previously existed. Under the leadership of Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, we have rallied behind this law enforcement crime suppression push and utilized OPTBA to execute a number of initiatives this past year. Under OPTBA, the United States Attorney's Office charged approximately 60 independent cases involved in drug trafficking. I'll highlight a few of those notable cases for you. One of the first that we charged under Operation Take Back America was one that's called the Kotelnikoff case. This case involved 3 Kodiak residents who were charged with distributing fentanyl in Kodiak, which resulted in death. As part of this case, postal inspectors intercepted a package of 5,000 fentanyl pills headed to Kodiak. Now, let me say that again, 5,000 pills. That's approximately $500,000 worth of narcotics in a single package with enough fentanyl to kill every resident of Kodiak. In addition, we've publicly linked that case to what is the largest drug trafficking organization to have been operating in the state of Alaska. So far, we've charged 69 defendants in that drug trafficking organization. Kotelnikoff and the individuals at Kodiak were 3 of those 69. While that case is pending, several have already pled guilty. Another notable case that I want to highlight for you is that of the Chelsea Inn and the owner of Chelsea Inn, as well as his accomplice, who operated that hotel as a drug premise. The Chelsea Inn had received approximately 1,500 911 emergency calls related to rape, murder, and narcotics trafficking. Law enforcement seized that hotel, and while the case is pending, has shut it down. The third OPTBA case that I want to highlight for you is that of Sean Mobley. Mr. Mobley was charged with the distribution of narcotics, also resulting in death and the overdose of 2 individuals. Mr. Mobley had distributed carfentanil. Carfentanil being something that is 10,000 times more powerful than morphine to his 2 victims. That distribution led to the death of an innocent 16-year-old girl. Mr. Mobley pled guilty to that charge in October of 2025 and has already been sentenced to 30 years in prison. And while these are just 3 examples, we've had numerous narcotic cases where the defendants have received a decade in prison or more. Significant sentences like this are critical for public safety and keeping these criminals off of our streets. In fact, last year, my office handled about 164 different sentencings. We received about an approximation of 5.5 years per sentence. And I want to highlight that for you because 5.5 years is a full year longer than the national average of sentences received in this country, and twice, that's double the average sentence of other defendants in this circuit. And while we've had many great successes in 2025, I expect 2026 to dwarf the prior year. Moving forward, we plan to use a 3-prong approach to combating the drug trafficking in this state. We'll be targeting the choke points where the drugs are entering, that through the air, the sea, and through the mail. We have already finished our first operation with respect to the airport. We've had 2 postal operations that we've talked about already a little bit, and you'll hear more about later, and there's much more scheduled for 2026. I want our communities to know that my office continues to use every resource available to fight this deadly issue, and will continue to leverage the OPTBA resources to target the transnational criminal organizations that are exploiting our state. With that, I'll turn the mic over to the Alaska State Attorney General, Mr. Stephen Cox.
Thank you, Michael. By the way, Michael is a fearless prosecutor, and Alaska is very fortunate to have him as our U.S. Attorney and our Chief Federal Law Enforcement Officer. Thank you to all of our federal partners, our state troopers, our municipal officers, our prosecutors, the men and women that do this kind of work every day. You've heard more about the operational results of our HIDA team just now. Let me speak briefly about coordination and partnership, and why an all-of-government approach is really everything in this fight. Alaska is different. That's something that we hear all the time in Alaska. And we're a long way from everywhere. We don't share a southern border with Mexico. Drugs don't roll in through the highways. Drugs come, just like Michael just said, they come by air, by mail, and by vessel. And that means interdiction in a big state like Alaska requires creativity and coordination. Throughout my work with law enforcement over the years, I've seen cases rise or fall when agencies move in sync or when they don't. So I favor an all-of-government approach, federal, state, and local law enforcement working shoulder to shoulder, breaking down silos, ending turf battles. If there's a choke point, we want to work it together. If there's a case, we want to build it together. And the Department of Law, we work closely with DPS, with APD, with FBI, DEA, U.S. Postal Service, the Coast Guard, with our U.S. Attorney's Office, now with our City Attorney's Office. These are active partnerships, and they're built and designed to produce results. The stakes are real, as you've heard. It shows up in emergency rooms. It shows up in overdose calls. It touches small rural villages and urban neighborhoods alike. Recently, working with our federal prosecutors, we obtained convictions against an individual who caused 2 overdoses on a single night in Wasilla. One victim, thankfully, was revived with Narcan. The other was a 16-year-old girl in the Matsu Valley, and she lost her life. These overdose deaths in Alaska have tripled in the last 10 years, tripled. In one of the most recent reports that I've seen, there were 400 Alaskans who lost their lives in a single year. Fentanyl has really changed the character of this crisis. It's cheaper, it's deadlier, it can be mixed with other drugs without the user's knowledge. A single shipment can really poison an entire village. And there's an economic reality that we have to confront. The price markup for illicit drugs in Alaska, it's staggering. Drugs that sell for hundreds of dollars in the lower 48 sell for thousands here. And that kind of profit margin attracts organized traffickers who see Alaska as a high-yield market. And that's why interdiction matters. But even when we stop shipments, we still have to restore order where people live. And if we stop drugs at the airport, but then we allow open-air drug offenses to happen in our parks, we haven't really solved the problem. If we dismantle a trafficking network, but then we ignore the repeat low-level drug offenses on the street, families are going to still feel unsafe. And that's why we recently, as the governor mentioned, launched this quality of life initiative in partnership with the municipality of Anchorage. This effort is really about restoring accountability where Alaskans live and where Alaskans experience everyday life, in the stores, in the sidewalks, in the public spaces. Lower-level crimes, they matter because they shape whether people feel secure in their own communities. And so, just like with HIDA, on this quality of life initiative, we're aligning federal, state, and local prosecutors and law enforcement so cases don't fall through the cracks and repeat offenders don't get to exploit the gaps. I've actually assigned one of our best and most seasoned prosecutors, John Skidmore, to lead this initiative. He understands coordination very well and accountability. There's one more piece that I want to mention in this. If drugs come in by the air and by mail and by vessel, that means that the commercial infrastructure that carries lawful commerce can also be exploited for harm. So we're talking about airlines, cargo carriers, private couriers, shipping terminals. We want to build public-private partnerships along these lines. As some of you know, we've begun conversations with Alaska Airlines and other carriers to talk about choke points, about how trafficking happens, how interdiction happens, and how these private companies can actually work together lawfully and responsibly to support interdiction. These conversations are just beginning, they're going well, and they're productive because businesses don't want to see their own systems used to poison communities. I'm also encouraged by our partnership with ONDCP. Sara Carter is a relentless warrior in the fight against drug crimes. She thinks creatively, outside the box. She moves quickly, and she's a doer. We've been having early conversations about advanced technology that we can use, about canine resources, about how we can be more aggressive and more precise and smarter so that we can target the supply before it gets to our cities and our villages. Alaska has strong partnerships, and we have capable law enforcement, and we have dedicated prosecutors. But the fight requires persistence and coordination and partnership. And so we'll coordinate together, and we'll do this together. We'll use every lawful tool that we have available to do this together. And with that, let me turn it over to Deputy Chief Nunez from the Postal Inspection Service.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Governor Dunleavy, all our attending guests today for the invitation today. Good morning. My name is Rafael Nunez, and I'm the Deputy Chief Inspector for the United States Postal Inspection Service. We are the law enforcement and security branch of the Postal Service. While the Postal Service is better known for delivering birthday cards, Little League uniforms, and medicine, there are bad actors who try to send illegal items through the U.S. mail. When the Postal Service becomes an unwitting courier for illegal drugs, postal inspectors remove them from the mail. And then we aggressively investigate and arrest the criminals and drug traffickers who sent them. The Postal Inspection Service plays a central role in disrupting the drug supply chain. With every interdiction, our goal is to not only seize drugs and illegal proceeds, but identify trafficking infrastructure and bring entire drug trafficking organizations to justice. We achieve this goal with the strong support of our law enforcement partners. To conduct this month's interdiction, postal inspectors work with the Alaska State Troopers, the Western Alaska Alcohol and Narcotic Team, the Southeast Alaska Cities Against Drugs, the Fairbanks Area-Wide Narcotics Team, the Anchorage Airport Interdiction Team, and our federal partners, the FBI, Homeland Security, and DEA. The Postal Inspection Service is also proud to partner with the Office of National Drug Control Policy and Sara Carter, our nation's drug czar. To effectively combat sprawling drug trafficking operations, the Postal Inspection Service needs a presence across Alaska, which is why for every interdiction, for everyday operations, postal inspectors have a strong statewide network of 19 task force officers known as TFOs. We work directly with TFOs from the Alaska State Troopers and South Point, North Slope Borough, Anchorage, Ketchikan, and Juneau Police Departments. It's our work together as force multipliers that made January's interdiction successful. Between January 20th and 30th, the Postal Inspection Service seized from the mail stream the following amounts of drugs and quantities: 10 pounds of fentanyl, 29 pounds of methamphetamine, 8 pounds of cocaine, 196 bottles of liquor, and over $21,000 in illegal cash proceeds. But these interdiction totals are just representative of 10 days of what postal inspectors and our TFOs achieved together. TFOs from Juneau Police Department played a critical role and were a part of each Postal Inspection Service operation to catch 7 alleged ring members who were accused of distributing meth with an approximate street value of $700,000. Those individuals are facing potentially decades in prison. Together, we are all one team focused on protecting every American from the devastation and terror of drug traffickers. Let me end with this. I oversee the Western Field operations of the Postal Inspection Service, and I've been a postal inspector for 26 years. I know that Alaska is often described as an island because of its limited number of entry points. So every letter, every package delivered here is a lifeline. For Alaska's economy, for every Alaskan village, for every Alaskan family. By making the mail safer, we make Alaskan villages safer, and this is a responsibility that postal inspectors take very seriously. Removing any amount of fentanyl, of meth, any bottle of illegally shipped alcohol, that's a life saved. Anyone who attempts to violate the Postal Service network and put dangerous items in the mail stream is attacking our communities. And postal inspectors will not allow that. Postal inspectors will not allow the mail to be a backdoor for drug trafficking organizations in Alaska or any American community. We will surge our people and our resources here. We are willing to follow any investigation through, and we are ready to disrupt any drug trafficking organization, any bad actor that tries to U.S. mail to poison our communities. Thank you.
All right, we'll now open up for questions. We'll call on reporters one at a time. We have a lot of speakers, so please direct your questions to the appropriate speaker. Zach Adian?
I'm not sure if this is a question for DG Cox or the governor, but given the emphasis on the Quality of Life Initiative and then partnerships with local entities, I'm curious if there's any reconfiguration of how EPD or other local law enforcement are partnering with interdiction work specifically at the airport complex, given how much of the drug supply is interdicted here.
So thanks for the question. We are trying to leverage existing resources on the state side and on the city side. And we were just having conversations yesterday about the various HIDA teams and how we can get to make sure that all of the right players are in the right teams, especially at the airport. But I think the main takeaway is we're using existing resources and we're leveraging each other's authorities. We actually just signed an MOU recently with the city and did some cross deputizations, cross designations so that their prosecutors can prosecute state felonies and our prosecutors can also prosecute some of the municipal ordinances as well, working hand in glove together to use each other's authorities to act as one team. But we'll be doing that at the HIDA team as well.
Right, so that MOU that you mentioned, that was specifically about shoplifting and organized retail theft. Is there any partnership or any MOU in the works that is specific to maybe cross-designating or anything else on drug?
So the MOU is actually about two fronts. It touches on retail theft, of course, but it also touches on these public disorder crimes as well. And we are going to be, I think, expanding our work together with respect to drug offenses and whatnot. But this is an ongoing conversation. It's an ongoing partnership. And this will be the focus of 2026 for our various agencies. And I think it's going to be a very good partnership.
Just I think you mentioned something about the Anchorage Police at the airport. That's Department of Transportation Police that are here at the airport. So that's state police, state affiliate police here. But as the AG said, this is just the beginning of integration, collaboration, cooperation, communication. And so far with the Quality of Life Initiative, things are going well. As I mentioned, just met with the mayor yesterday. But this is, you're going to see a lot more integration. You're going to see, again, more press conferences, not just for the sake of press conferences, but when we meet certain benchmarks or employ certain benchmarks, we want to make sure the public knows about it, and we want to make sure that the criminals and the drug dealers know about it as well.
Johnson?
Do you have any idea of federal funding being allocated to Alaska drug interdiction efforts at this time?
Sara?
I could take that question. Yeah, I didn't know if. So we are currently in the process of assessing all of the funding that will be heading, and of course, important to my office, the Office of National Drug Control Policy, is our HIDA team. So our high-intensity drug trafficking teams, as well as our DPCs, which are part of our grants, are drug-free community programs. So absolutely, we are assessing that right now. We're working very closely on the federal level, and we will be getting with the governor on that, as well as our teams on that as well. It's very important for us and for the White House and for our law enforcement community to know that we 100% stand behind our law enforcement agencies. That is from the state, going from local to state to federal to tribal. We want them to know that we are behind them 100%, that we support them, and in our efforts with our Homeland Security task forces, which are very important. We don't want to operate in silos. This is what we talked about earlier. The governor made a very good point of that. We no longer want to operate in silos. We want to be sharing information. We want to be funding and preparing, and this is why Alaska was the very first place I visited as drugs are. I wanted to ensure that the Alaska people that here, you knew in your communities that we did not forget you. We were not living in a bubble. I don't want to be in Washington, D.C. sitting behind a desk. I want to be out on the front lines with the people fighting the fight and finding out where the resources are needed most. And certainly in Alaska, with what we've seen, we know that Alaska needs those resources as well. So thank you.
I'll just add one piece to that. And when we talk about funding, there's multiple facets to that funding question. It's prevention, it's investigation, which you see a lot of on this stage, and it's also prosecution, so my office. And I can tell you that I have been speaking with the Attorney and Deputy Attorney General's office regularly, and the message has been sent loud and clear to DC as far as the drug trafficking issue that exists in Alaska, and they have funded us in anticipation of 2026. I expect that my office will probably receive another 6 to 9 assistant U.S. attorneys dedicated to focusing on drug trafficking. So at least from the prosecution perspective, it is and will continue to be a priority with increased funding over the next couple of years.
Just an additional thought on that. Not every new initiative needs money. With the collaboration we're doing with the Anchorage municipality, there's no new money. It's really breaking down barriers, as Sara mentioned. It's about approaching things differently, as opposed to just having specific jurisdictions in which we don't talk to others. That alone, having that conversation, having the MOAs and MOUs to assist with that, I think is going to make a huge difference. There may be money down the road in which we need money and we target it, but I think for the most part, I say this because I don't want taxpayers being concerned that this is an initiative that's, for the purpose of raising money and bringing money to the state of Alaska. That may happen, but by virtue of all these folks here and us having the same conversation and looking at the gaps in our jurisdictions, the gaps in how we approach things, that's going to be our first process that we take a look at, as we are with Anchorage right now. So I think you're going to see some great things, even without money.
Yes, it's for you, Mayor. So you talk about how there was a bigger decline from last August.
Mayor's shorter, and she's a woman.
Not
I'm the
Mayor,
governor.
sorry. Governor. This is my second week in Alaska. I'm still there. I apologize. I just got here from California.
That's
I will
fine.
say it's much more beautiful here. So, Governor, You talk about how there was a big decline from last August to this August. Going into the upcoming August, how does this affect the morale as you guys continue to prosecute?
Morale within the agencies, morale with the public, or?
Just overall.
Well, I think Alaskans know we could do better when it comes to crime, and a lot of our crime is related to drugs. And I think we're, in some respects, this may sound silly, but I think we're very fortunate. As was mentioned, we don't have a lot of drugs coming over from Siberia. I mean, people may laugh at that, but we don't. We have it coming up in ships, planes, and through the mail. We know that. So in some respects, I don't want to say it's going to make things easier, but we know what to focus on. And so what we've demonstrated over the last couple of years, by focusing on crime, you can actually drive it down. It doesn't have to be baked into the culture. It doesn't have to be something that's accepted. And so I would say that what's excited me, and I'm so glad that Sara has been appointed to the position that she's in, because when she first came up here, she was excited too, to be able to do something in a state of our size and magnitude, but put together a model for the country. I think morale-wise, we keep driving down the crime rate, we keep intercepting and interdicting drugs, and I think over time, and not a long time, but over time, short period of time, I think you're going to see some changes, and I think the people of Alaska in the city of Anchorage will see changes as well. So we're excited about it.
Can I add something to that real quick? I agree with the governor. I want to make sure that I bring this up. Look, what's so important about the state of Alaska is that we're sending a message. We're sending a message not only to the people of Alaska that we love you, we support you, we have felt your pain. Leading cause of death should not have been fentanyl. People should not be losing their children. Families should not be suffering. But just as important, we're sending a message to the Sinaloa cartel and to these foreign terrorist organizations that your days are numbered, that it is over for you, that we're going to find your choke points and we're going to follow them through. And we're not going to allow you to sidestep. You're going to say, oh, well, you shut down the border, which is fantastic. Now we're going to send it more through the mail. Now we're going to send more by air. Now we're going to send more shipments by sea. They will not get that chance. This administration and all of the law enforcement, federal, like I said, local, state, tribal, federal, we are working together. We are going to find their choke points. We are going to stop them, and we are going to ensure that the message is loud and clear. You will not be selling your poison in Alaska. You will not be selling your poison in the United States. You will not continue killing our children. And remember, a lot of these are not just overdose deaths, which are bad enough. We care about prevention, treatment, and recovery. We do. But a lot of the people that have died because they were murdered. They were poisoned. This is chemical warfare on our country, and it will stop, and we're going to ensure that it will stop. And Alaska, as the governor said, is a great example of what the rest of the nation is going to be doing. This is a perfect example of working together as a team. The governor did a great job of explaining that, working together as a team with everyone from our HIDAs to our state and local police to our tribal affiliates to ensure that this ends today. And this will be an example for the rest of the country. Thank you.
Just one for Commissioner Cockrell. What, given the unique assets that DPS has all over the state, and kind of the eyes and ears and centuries for a lot of this interdiction work, what resources would help the department outside of Anchorage, outside of the rail belt, and some of the more rural communities? I mean, is it MOUs? Is it a change in kind of legal policy? Is it resources for extra staffing? Like, what helps your troopers on the front lines do their jobs?
Again, good question, James Cockrell, Commissioner of Department of Public Safety. I would say the most important thing, we talked a little bit about morale, it's how the people communicate with our troopers. Certainly having the support of the governor's office, the federal support, is support from our tribes, and support throughout the state and our legislature, and providing the necessary tools the Alaska State Troopers need to do their mission. It's when you put all that together, the morale goes up, our seizures go up, because we are, like I said before, we're laser focused on preventing drugs coming in the state. I lost a son to drugs, so I certainly know the pain that people have. But we have to continue, and it has to be sustained. It can't be, we'll do one thing here, one thing here. It has to be sustained throughout time if we're really going to make a dent. And you've seen, we are making a dent in our drug seizures. Our drug seizures are actually going down, and that's because of what we're doing here, and what our HIDTA people are doing, and the Anchorage Police Department's doing. We're seeing a reduction in drugs coming into Alaska, and a lot of that is because the border's been shut down. We do know our drugs come from our big hub cities, Phoenix, Los Angeles, Seattle, and then it gets on an airplane or a boat and it comes up here. We've done a great job with working with the Postal Service. That was a game changer when the Postal Service started putting our task force officers in our post office, because we know everything that gets mailed in Alaska goes through Anchorage post office. And we rip a lot of drugs out of there, and then we've also got the cargo ships coming in and out with drugs. So it's a whole partnership, as we've talked about. Certainly the Marshal Service has been involved in getting some of these guys that we haven't caught, because they're really good at catching people. I think we are too, but I think they might be a little bit better. But in the long run, it's part of your administration, because we work for our administration. I work for the governor. We wouldn't have got the Postal Service task force officers if it wouldn't have been for Senator Sullivan. I called him up, his office one day, and say, hey, we need to get into the post office. The next day, he and his wife were in our office talking about how we do that. And that was probably 2 years ago. And look at all the drugs we've ripped off the post office. You go to any village, they'll tell you exactly where the drugs are coming from, and they'll know exactly who's getting the drugs through the mail. I mean, we've got a really major problem out in our villages. Alcohol is still the #1 drug. That's why, if you heard the seizures, for you folks that don't know why we're seizing all this alcohol, is because most of our villages are dry or damp villages, so they can't have alcohol in there. They can't mail them in. So I don't know if I answered your question, but that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, it has to be sustained. We can't just walk away from this and do nothing, because people will figure out that when we're not enforcing it and when we are, and no different than street level crime.
Yes, you answered. I just one quick follow-up. I mean, is there anything like the TFO designation that came through for increasing and improving partnerships with Postal? Are there other non-monetary partnerships and silo breakdowns at the policy level that the department is interested in seeing that would help kind of advance some of the interdiction work, whether it's local option communities or drug interdiction?
I don't really have a good answer for that. Again, I'll stick to what I said. We certainly have partnerships with the Anchorage Police Department. They're in our HIDTA. I know that they do their own drug enforcement within the city of Anchorage, and they do a really good job. We work really close with them. We do surges. We do summer heat. That's between us and the Anchorage Police Department. We also do it out in the Matsu Valley. We also do it up in Fairbanks. One of the things that we do to reduce street level crimes, we've got a criminal suppressing unit in the Matsu Valley and Fairbanks, and they just focus on those type things. If you look at the amount of recovery stuff, it goes into the thousands of dollars, plus the people that were arrested, most of them have illegal firearms and drugs themselves. So again, that's sustained, that's one focus. We have 3 in each areas, which if we could put 10 in there, we'd do much better. And the governor's supported additional troopers. We got BPSOs here that have training to go into the villages and look for drugs. We do know that some of our BPSOs have dog canines that go into the communities. So, and again, that's a big part of what we do as Alaska State Troopers and the Department of Public Safety to support the BPSO program, which has seen a huge growth over the last 4 or 5 years. I think we're up to 85 or 90. And we started out in like the high 30s. So I think I answered your question. Thank you. So.
Johnson, do you have anything else?
Yeah, in dealing with a lot of these drug-related stories, it seems like mental health is always big.
Can you talk a louder? Can't hear you.
It doesn't really matter with my phone. Yeah. Okay, how are you addressing the mental health and substance use disorder treatment needs of Alaskans alongside these interdiction efforts? And is there a prevention and treatment component to the strategy?
So we know that's the flip side of the other side of the coin. Right now, with the folks behind us, we're looking at interdiction. We're looking at stopping the flow. But we need to have continued conversations as to what we need to do to beef up the ability for Alaskans who want to get off drugs, who want to get clean, and who want to get back on track. Those discussions need to happen. They're going to be continual discussions. And as I was standing up there, this is just the beginning of this process. It's not a photo op. It's not a press conference just for press conference sake. I mean, we're going to have to engage the courts sooner or later. We're going to have to engage the legislature as we run into things, meaning to the extent we can cooperate and fill in the gaps, we may find other things that really need legislative changes. We may find things that need the third branch, the court's involvement in doing some things too. But certainly help, not just interdiction, but help for those that need the help is a discussion that has been ongoing and needs to continue. So.
Can I add something? I'll just add something on that front. So part of the quality of life initiative that we've undertaken is really an all-of-government approach. And so we're trying to bring to bear all of the state departments, to tackle all of the issues because they are multifaceted. And so, for example, in our MOU with the city, the city and the state have committed to bringing to the table public health, public housing specialists so that we can think about these things from all the different angles. I also want to work, again, with these public-private partnerships. I want to work with the organizations that are, reaching out and providing help, whether it's, Covenant House or whatnot. We also think about, these kinds of issues in connection with other tools that we have, like pretrial diversion. For example, we've been having a conversation about whether if you've got sort of a first-time offender with a clean record, is there a way to make sure that they get back on their feet? And in lieu of being charged, maybe they do some community service, maybe they clean up a little bit of Anchorage. We're thinking about all of those things. We're really trying to take this sort of all-of-government approach and do it in partnership because these problems are not easy. They're not simple. They won't be fixed overnight, but that's our approach.
One quick add-on to that from the federal. On the federal level, it is very important to us, and our National Drug Control Policy Strategy is set to unveil very soon. We're very pleased ONDCP is getting ready to unveil President Trump's 2026 National Drug Control Policy Strategy, which focuses not only on the supply side and being the hammer, but also on prevention, treatment, and recovery, which is vitally important to our communities. Look, we want to make it easier for people that want effective treatment to get treatment and recovery than it is to get drugs off the streets. That's what we want, and that's what we're working towards. It is important that we don't forget, these are Americans, they need our help, and if they want our help and they want effective treatment, we want to be able to get them on that road towards recovery. So that is very much a part of our national drug control strategy, very much a part of President Trump's policy, the Great American Recovery Act. That is something that we are looking at as well. I'm working very closely with HHS, Catherine Burgum and others. We're looking at what we can do on a national level to make sure that we get effective treatment to those who need it. So thank you for the question.
Well, again, I want to thank you for coming to the press conference. This is just the beginning. I think Alaska is very fortunate. We got a great partner in President Trump and his administration. Sara came up several months ago, new to the job, and was excited about helping Alaska. We had great conversations at that point. Typically, in previous administrations, those conversations would end there. That didn't happen. This partnership continues to strengthen, continues to build. The partnership with Anchorage municipality also continues to strengthen and build. And so when you're really serious about something, you just don't talk about it. You start to put things in action. We talked about how the state itself, through our administration, has driven down crime, put assets into the troopers and across the board. And we know what the problems are. And again, I say Alaska's fortunate because it's not as if we have 300 to 400 different entry points into Alaska. It's pretty limited and understood. And so I would tell the people of Alaska to watch what we do. I think you're going to see changes across the board over time, short period of time, I hope. And I would say to those that are dealing drugs, it's going to get a lot harder. And I'm not just saying that. It's going to get a lot harder. I brought this up, the crime issue, in my first State of the State. And, I warned criminals at that point they should leave the state of Alaska. Obviously, some are still here, and some come in and deal. But we also passed the law regarding any deaths related to drugs, to drug dealing, carries a second-degree murder charge. So we'll continue to work across the board with the legislature. Like I said, we'll sooner or later have to engage the court system as well. But the folks behind us, from the Postal Service to the Attorney General's office, across the board with Sara and others, is going to make a huge difference here in the state of Alaska. So this is not a one and done. We're going to make this I think a model for the country. And you're going to see results, and that's the most important thing. People of Alaska will see results. I don't think there's anyone here in the state of Alaska that does not know somebody that's been impacted by drugs in one way or another. And so this isn't just about them or those people. It's really about all of us, and that's the purpose of this. And so, again, I want to thank the folks that have come up from Washington, the folks that are stationed here. I'm excited about tackling an issue that, from a public safety perspective, is incredibly important, incredibly damaging to the people of Alaska and this country. And so, again, if you don't think the Trump administration is serious about crime, just watch those videos off the coast of Venezuela or off the coast of the Eastern Pacific. The president is pretty clear that he wants this country to improve greatly and quickly. And so, again, this is not just going to be a photo op or one and done. This is going to be something serious. So I want to thank everyone for being here, and we'll continue to update you as to the progress. So thank you.